Mr. Working? Okay. Hello. What I'm going to try and do today is basically explain the mistake of Douglas Hofstadter. There was this guy called Douglas Hofstadter who thought that there was a correlation between completely meaningless systems and meaningful systems, right? So that would mean that if you look at something like this, yeah, and you see that this thing has got like blood vessels and it's made of molecules and atoms and all that kind of stuff. Well, he thought that if you looked at recursion and infinity, that would make sense in terms of how a thing like this becomes something that calls itself an I. Says, I am something, refers to itself. Well, this idea, as I'll explain in a second, is basically completely wrong. So this is where this idea departs from, and it goes like this, yeah? This is recursive iteration. Yeah. So what you've got here is recursive iteration, which works like this. Basically, recursion means that a thing defines itself in terms of itself. So just explain, a good example of that is the Fibonacci sequence. So you've got something like this, you've got that one, and then you've got another. You've got another one, yeah, on that, and so it's basically the rest of the sequence is 1, 1, and that's to 2, yeah? Right, so you've got 2, and then 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, so the next thing would be 3, like that, yeah? 3, and 2, and 3 would make 5, very good, this, and then 3 and 5 would make, so it's 8. So in other words, it would always, this number would always redefine in terms of this number and that number, but they're the same because they're in the same sequence, right? So, if you look at this idea, that then you could take, say, a point A here, yeah, a point A, and that you could go anywhere from this point, somewhere, halfway to anywhere, like here. For example, hold on a second. You go to this point here, see that here, and then from this point you go halfway anywhere, and that will get here, and there, and you go halfway anywhere, like here, or from here, you could get halfway, to anywhere. And again it will be a halfway, and then again you do the same thing here, that finally you would get a triangle, there would be a V, and you get a triangle here, and there would be a C. Now what this basically means is that if you keep replicating the fractal, yeah, so this is why it's called recursive iteration, then you get something like this. Finally you get this, this, like a triangle, like that, yeah, and a triangle like this, right, which then is endlessly recursive too. So we go something like that, there's another triangle, like within the triangle, yeah, excuse me, yeah, and within this triangle there is another triangle, and within this triangle there is another one, and then here again there is here there is a triangle, and here, see, and then there is a triangle within there, yeah, in there, within here there is a triangle there, and then there, and it's all full of endless triangles, right? So basically what this means, and see there, the triangle, and so on, you get the basic idea, right? So if you then look at that, this is called the Sierpinski triangle, right? So the idea behind that is that if you move in any direction from here, using the fractal logic, you will get to something like this, yeah? see, this is what you get to, yeah? But this is only a frozen moment. This doesn't really prove what what's his name, Hofstadter was saying, which is that basically, so basically that you have like a sort of, you know, a system, and then you'd have a point of view which is outside of the system. Yeah. So see, yeah, this is say if we, yeah, there, right? So you have a point of view which is, so this is a meta point of view, yeah? Meta point of view, right? This is the meta point of view. That doesn't really hold water, because if I say, you know, if there is a system, and the system is saying hello, and if instead of saying hello, I say, oh, hello, yeah? Well, it's the same thing. I mean, it's not the same system, it's slightly different. But I'm just using something else. So the basic thing here is that the basic thing here is that there is a correlation between these two things, right? Yeah. So that this is a little thing here, and that this is a bigger thing here. But this does not prove that there is an entity there at all, in fact, because even if you're not in the system, even if there is a meta point of view, that is only a temporary point of view. So they say that it's sort of, you know, that the grammar works in the same way, that you would normally then say something like, you take a sentence and you say something like, a bagel's got a hole and the hole's got a blister. Well, you could say that, or you could say, you know, the blister's got a hole and the hole's got a bagel and there is bagel. You could go on endlessly. But that's not the point. Of course you could go on endlessly, but it would not be a meta point of view. Let me tell you something else. If you get, say, something like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Yeah? Well, you know, so what is the sound of one hand clapping? Could be, say, you could be slapping. Here we go. Show you, yeah? Let me show you. You just how this works. One hand clapping, yeah? So it's a one hand slapping, right? This is one hand slapping. But how is that the meta point of view? It's not a meta point of view. There is nothing meta here. It's basically exactly the same thing as that, only frozen from, you know, there is a perspective there, and it's like frozen from that perspective. But essentially it doesn't really prove anything, right? So it doesn't prove that if there are all these fractals at this level, they will make up an I. Yeah? There is no such a thing. And the reason why there is no such a thing is because there is no meta point of view. There is no meta point of view because, of course, I'll show you, because, yeah, if you depart from here, as I'm sure you know where, like from here, and you want to go there, well, you can look at that journey in terms of, like, you know, getting there, but of course it's always halfway here, and it's always halfway to there, and this is only halfway to here, which means that you in fact never get there. You just freeze the point of view and say that's what it is. It's so clear it isn't. Yeah? And then explain how this works in the next session. Yeah? So, yeah, this is it. You get that? Right, yes, yeah,